Okay, so each of you will get a little note that says recording in progress, and you just click got it. Welcome, everyone. Tommy Doonan is going to share some information with us. I'm going to share screen, and it is it's not the one. This is it here. Share. Okay, Tommy, I have something on here called the Meadow. Is that what you wanted to share with everyone?
Yeah, can you just shrink it just a little bit? We're not saying all we need to see. We're only saying half of what we need. Stop. Keep going. Stop.
Right there. Is that good?
No, a little smaller.
A little smaller.
Smaller.
One smaller.
I better go get a magnifying glass.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got like a 28-inch monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on an iPad, and it's about as small as we can go before
We
it
don't want to
disappears.
go any smaller, Tommy.
Okay, then pump it larger a couple times. I'll get
Yeah.
rid of my big monitor.
All right, we'll
And-
make it larger.
And
Yeah,
you
make it
can
large.
collapse the
Okay,
left.
stop there.
You can collapse the left side, can't you, Vincent? It's an email. You know.
Do you know how to
can't
do that?
collapse. Yeah. Hit the. Oh Lord, what'd you just do?
Vince, is there any way you could pull the JPEG out of the email and then just open it by itself?
I don't know.
Oh.
All right, so let me stop share and let me see if I can go back and do that.
Yeah, just drag it to
think
your
that-
desktop and then open it.
I think it was the down arrow on that left to collapse your.
I can save pictures, so maybe we could do it that way. Because you have it as a JPEG file, right? So what?
Correct.
We'll call it the Meadow.
Sure.
Save it. And let's see if I can then find that on my desktop. Bear with me, everyone. We're getting there.
Bill's
You know-
picture came up.
Bill's-
Hi, Bill.
Bill's-
Can you hear me?
Your audio's off.
Yeah, you have two devices and nearby each other, and that's what's going on there. So
We got an echo.
we've got an echo, so you're gonna have to put
Can you
one
hear
of,
me now?
yeah, you're gonna.
Can you hear me?
What do you do? Dial in and
Yeah, he dialed in with a computer and also apparently with a cell phone.
for the
So
phone?
Bill, you'll have to
Drop one.
one of those two devices because it's producing a double sound effect. Okay, Tommy, I'm almost there. Okay, exit that. Go to screen share, go to Meadow, click share. Okay,
There it is.
there you go.
How's that look, everybody?
It's better.
Is it legible?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm on base now. Oh, no.
Okay, that's better. That's
Oh,
better.
that's even better.
That's perfect.
How's that, Tom? Is that good for you?
It's good.
Go down a couple.
Down a couple.
Oh, you don't want to see the top of it?
No, the other way.
You meant up.
Vince, could you send the screen to me? Put me in charge?
Yeah, okay, why don't I do that, Tom? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I'm not a control person, that's fine, so if I'm going to hold on, Tom, I'm going to make you the co-host,
No.
co-host, and
Right.
then you'll be able to shut.
It's just that my
share your
monitor is
screen.
too big. I'm
Okay,
used to seeing
Tom,
things.
all right, Tom.
It's too big. That's funny.
Tom, you're making me crack up over here. All right, you now have the power to share your screen and share the document.
And don't
So-
torture us with a tiny thing.
So how do I share? Wait, at the bottom, share screen.
Yep, that's it. And then you'll click on whatever it is you want to share. So that particular document, and then that will take over the
Can you all see the Meadow now?
No,
yeah.
no.
You have to click on Click on the Meadow and then click on the button to the right that says share.
Hey,
Oh, I see it. Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
And Vincent, did you enable him to do
I
that?
did. Yeah, I
Okay.
gave him rights as co-host.
Okay,
So he just has to click on the document and then click on the word share, and it will bring that up.
It's gonna be going through passwords. Hold on.
That's fine, Tom. We see the top of your head now. Distinguished gray, pepper gray.
Can't see-
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Yes,
can. Hey,
Okay.
welcome back, Bill.
Okay, good.
Still
Yeah.
can't see my desktop.
no,
Hold it. I'd like to record it. Open settings. Oh, it's never mind. It's got me doing settings on recording.
I can just see the top of James' head.
Yeah,
Hey, James.
I'm sitting low in the saddle here.
yeah, I thought he was deliberately just showing us nose and up.
I
Can we see
hardly
the-
recognize
can we see the Meadow now?
the top of your head.
Not yet, Tom.
No.
Okay, Vince, let's go back to you and we'll just do
Yeah.
it where people can see it.
All righty.
Take it back.
Okay. Taking it back, Meadow, picture, share.
There
Okay,
it is.
it's back.
Okay, we can see what we can see.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is half of what I see on my screen, but 5 or 6 months ago, I guess through our group, I learned about a grammar, spelling, punctuation program called Grammarly, like Grammarly.
Mhm.
And what it does is it actually, when you install it on your computer, and I think I did an upgrade for $20 a year, or $100 a year, or whatever, it actually will check spelling, grammar, punctuation on literally every program you have open, including your email. So your email will go out clean if you use Grammarly. What we're looking at here is part of one of the pages from my full-length novel, Shadowed by Fear, and this section is called The Meadow. And on the right, you see it's sort of a square box now. It's only part of it. Really, it's a rectangular. And that's the dialog box for Grammarly. And on the right, you see a little circle. It says 135.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That means that Grammarly has detected 135 errors in this section of text that I've given it,
Mhm.
which is
Wow.
good and bad.
or
Uh,
135 suggestions.
Suggestions, correct, yeah. It thinks it's an error, it gives a suggestion.
Mhm.
One of the weaknesses I found of Grammarly, it only can effectively do 100,000 characters at a time, and characters include a space. So it can't do like a full-length novel. So what I had to do on the work that I'm working on is literally go section by section, copy and paste, create a separate document of less than 100,000 characters, open it, run Grammarly on it, save it, and then cut and paste it back into the original document. But in the long run, it's worth it. As you accept or not accept recommendations, that 135 will go down to 0.
Mhm.
Again, on the right, top right now, you see the word accept. And unfortunately, we can't see it, but there's a sentence down below. I wrote, I wish I was hitting Victor and Harper. It recommended drop the word was, because it's crossed out in red, and add the word were. And I can accept it or dismiss it. So I think in this case, I accepted it. Then the next recommendation, again, actually, the very, very bottom, 2 lines up on the left, you see, foo, no signal, period. You lousy device, she thought. The word you there, Grammarly is saying, get rid of the pronoun and put something else on. I either kept it like that because she was sort of thinking to herself, cursing her device, her iPhone, you lousy device. So that I could keep or not keep, or I could just drop the word you and say, foo, no signal, lousy device. And then below that, she returned, we can't see that. And then there's
By the way, we can see all of that. I can see all of it.
oh, you can.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
everything, the whole box and everything you're saying.
Oh, Okay, I don't know what you're seeing, what I'm seeing.
Yeah,
See
I
on the
can see-
left toward the bottom, underlined in red, hollering, HOLLORING.
Yeah.
That was a misspelling, which is typical of me. When spell checkers first came out, I used to say, I teach spell checkers how to misspell. It's true. And so obviously that one I would have accepted as accept the change. As I think I mentioned at our last session in meeting together, sometimes it misses tense. What was the example I used was I used a plural noun and I meant to use plural and I wanted to make it singular and it was wrong. But it's the program is tedious, but it's not tedious, because there's times where I'll open up a section of 8 or 9 or 10,000 words, maybe not that many. It'll come up with like 650 suggested corrections.
Yeah.
Now, that's a lot. However, it really forces you to look at every line that you've written and decide, okay, spelling error, no problem. If I have 2 spaces and I only need 1 space, no problem. Maybe I missed the tense. Okay, I got to change the tense. And by the time you're finished running Grammarly, whether it's 600 or 700 per section for items, you've got a much better document. The danger is if you go too fast and you say accept, 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 it actually changes the meaning of what you wanted to say. I think I mentioned last time, it's not good, I don't think, with dialogue, because what it's trying to do is give you perfect English diction for the 20th century. And a lot of times you're writing, like in this particular story, there's a lot of dialogue between teenagers. The diction is not perfect 20th century diction. The prose is just a little bit different. So quite often there, I'm telling Grammarly to dismiss their recommendation. I'm sure there's probably other programs out there like this, but I've really fallen in love with it because it picks up stuff I never would have caught.
So Tom, do you use this and then you cut and paste into Word? Is there a reason why you're not using Word directly? Is this
No,
better?
this is Word. You're looking at Word. It's just,
this is Word. Okay.
if if I have if the novel's 30,000 words, let me tell you, it's more than 30,000 characters.
Okay. But so you use
I cut and paste like the whole. I took the whole chapter of The Meadow, which was actually pages 91 to 121 in the novel.
Okay.
And so I did as a separate Word document, pages 91 to 121, ran Grammarly on it, got it the way I wanted it, and then took the Grammarly improved pages 191 to 121 and cut that back into the full text of the full novel.
Got it. Okay.
A little bit tedious, but it's worth the effort.
Yeah. Well, we're all learning different tools out there. And when you told me about this one, I have never used it, but I will now for sure take a look at this. Is it, you said there was no charge, it's free?
Yeah, there's a free, it's free out there, but obviously everything's free is not really free.
Okay.
And it said, hey, do you want the full version? I forget what the full version does better than the freed version. It was
Okay.
either 20 a year or 99 a year. I honestly forget.
Okay. We'll
Okay,
take a look at it for sure. Okay, Tom, thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
I used Grammarly for my entire first book. Before I knew I had to do everything on Word document, I was on Pages because of the iMac.
Right.
I did Grammarly every single paragraph.
Wow.
And you're right, Tommy. It's just fabulous. It's just fabulous. It doesn't miss a space or a comma or anything. Yeah.
Wow.
It's like having your own editor sitting
Yes.
inside of you.
So Grammarly first and then switch, cut and paste into Word. That's what I'm hearing.
Start in Word, write the whole thing in Word. And then if it's more than 100,000 characters, you're going to have to segment your work.
But
If you have a short story that's less than 100,000 characters, Grammarly would just run through it.
okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Tom. And Jeannie, thank you. And by the way, congratulations for everyone on the call who may not know. Jean just, she published her book, the Brutus the Junkyard Dog, a few months ago. And this week came out with the Spanish version. And so now that Brutus is barking in Venezuela. and Ecuador and, Brazil. No, not Brazil. That's Portuguese. But a good chunk of South and Central America. And your illustrator is from Latin America. So she
That's
hopefully
bad.
will bring a lot of entrees. But Jean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that also opened up the doors for you to talk to school districts in the area, because the powers that be see that. Can you tell me a little bit, or tell us a little bit more about how they see that as a marketing or an educational tool?
Yes, we went to the high school where Tennis, who was the illustrator, just graduated from. She started out at Butler, and that's where I met her. And they moved up to Lake Norman, and they saw the English version and the Spanish version as a tool for kids learning Spanish in their first year, because they could see the English entire sentence and then go to the other book and see it in Spanish. So the Lake Norman School is already in the process of wanting the Spanish book to get into their school system. And then I was, once you talk to one high school, you talk to the superintendent of that county, and it can be a real asset to the kids learning Spanish. And it doesn't even have to be in high school. It can be in middle school or grammar school, because this is a children's book. So it's, the sentence structure is well influenced by second and third graders, easily to understand. So
that's perfect.
Yeah, that was a real break.
Yeah, well, for all of us on the call, we always talk about who do we write the book for and where's the market? Well, the education market itself is huge, right? There's 10,000, I think 10,000 school districts in this country. So if you have a book that, and then word of mouth in education, by the way, is phenomenal. You don't have to spend a lot of money on advertising. They find it something, they bring it like to the Spanish Teachers of America or whatever. And before you know it, you're in schools all over the country. And having that Spanish version allows you to get over. So we're all going to come and, kiss your ring.
Well, thank you. Tennis has a Spanish, I don't know if it's a club or an association, where they meet and do a lot of activities. And she was interviewed for about 30 minutes on the Spanish radio recently and talked all about the book. So they're right now in the process of ordering their books there for that just one association. So
Wow.
It was pretty exciting.
That is super exciting. Congratulations, Jean. And we featured you, by the way, in the newsletter this month. I hope you saw the newsletter. And everyone on the call, each month I'd like to feature a different writer, whether you published a book or not. So please be thinking about, if you can send me a picture and a short bio that you'd like people to share. That newsletter goes out to everyone in our group. There's like 120 people that get that newsletter. And beyond that, sometimes it gets shared around the rest of the state. So it's a good way to keep your name out there. So take a look at it. Last month, who did we feature last month? Oh my gosh, I'm having a senior moment. Anyway, you're it for this month. Tag, Jean. Maybe Tommy, next month, we can get something from you. And even though some of the people on this call know who you are, there's other people that are brand new that don't. So that's another way for us to just constantly share ideas. Another way, and I know some of the people on this call already know about it, is the Senior Savvy Trail Tales column. And I highly encourage you, even if you haven't published yet, to think about writing 700 to 800 words, putting a story together and letting people out there know, because that newspaper goes once a month to 3,000 people in Cabarrus and Rowan County, which happens to be our region and coincides with our region, right? With your permission, what I'd like to do, I just submitted. I have not written a story for Trail Tales now in many, many months. And I thought, you know what, I need to get my writing back on track. So I wrote a story. With your permission, I'd like to kick it off and then turn it over to the next person who might have a story to read. Is that okay with everyone?
Absolutely.
All right.
Please.
Go share screen and we'll go to Trail Tales and share the story. This, well, that's not it. Hold on. No. She's going to stop and the window's closed. Fine. Go back to screen share. And okay, now to share. Perfect. Okay. So this will be up there in just a second. This is a story that that's titled The Hibachi. Can you see it on your screen?
Yes.
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 Okay, so this will be, you're seeing it first. It has not hit the paper yet. It'll be out in July, on July 1st. So I wrote it with a copyright date of 2023, and go back this way, Trail Tales. So I titled it The Hibachi, and with your permission, I'll go ahead and read it. Last month, June 2023, I placed the hibachi on the landing at the top of my stairs, an area favored by the evening sun that beams through an expansive bay window. At first, I considered using the cast iron container to host a bonsai juniper tree that would love that light. After finding a letter penned by my mom to my father, I realized that would be a disservice to the memories associated with the artifact that had been so carefully transported those many years ago. The letter, in quotes, mi amor, I'm back in the States now. The Mitchell docks safely in San Francisco. The children and I are unpacking some of the treasures we brought back with us from Naha. That's the capital of Okinawa, by the way. I remember that journey almost 3/4 of a century ago. I remember wishing that my dad had been with us to share the journey. Almost in my 6th year, I had no real understanding of why he had to stay behind. An officer, a soldier, he had a job to do on that island, a staging area for a brewing police action on a nearby peninsula. Of course, a reference to the Korean War. The 6-year-old really doesn't comprehend war, right? He or she sees the world through a different prism. I recall the moment a young woman gave that hibachi stove to my mom, saying in broken English something like, "Remember me when you return to America." Looking back now, I realize that young woman had witnessed some of the bloodiest fighting of the Second World War on that very island, on ground not far from where I had attended kindergarten. Running my pointer finger along the hibachi rim, I could almost see her face, hear her laughter, smell the sweet incense of hibiscus that she wore in her hair. She had taught me to play in the dark brown, almost black mud in a nearby field. No shoes, just a squish of wonderful goo through my toes. I remember thinking about her on the voyage back to the States. The 2-stack troop transport also ferried the families of servicemen across the seemingly endless Pacific Ocean. Odd name for an ocean that had been the stage for countless battles and was still a conduit for continued conflict in 1952. Strange that the westernmost shores continued to be embroiled in the geopolitical structure for power in Asia. Who would have thought that modern-day Japan would redefine its military posture in the 21st century, that China would challenge the US, and that Korea would once again dominate the news cycle? None of those thoughts entered my young mind back then. I just relished the power of the ship's engines, the whiff of navy gray paint, the splash of waves against the bow, the sight of a trailing wake, the endless sea that kissed the clouds on the horizon. The friends I had made on base, fellow brats, that's what we call military kids, and local children whose fathers were once the enemy. I saw them and heard their voices in the foamy brine that christened the ship's hull and the squawking seagulls as we approached the Golden Gate. To this day, I wonder how life has treated them. I wonder if the young woman has ever had children of her own. I am amazed that she was able to put aside the face of war and find a way to share the joy of her culture with the family of an occupying army. If, as is written in Ecclesiastes, there is a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace, then I would submit that the hibachi is a daily reminder that we are all called to share the spiritual meal that trends the barbecue pit or the metal pot. End of story, 700 words. And yeah,
Did you
yeah.
eat it?
What's that? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm supposed to be on mute. I'm listening to you and yelling at my dog.
Okay.
He ate my hat. I'm listening to you. Go ahead.
Okay. So what that allows me as a writer to do, again, is give readers a taste of how I write and my style, and then a short, very, very quick, brief burst or blurb, a bio, if you will, letting the reader know who I am briefly, what books I wrote, and how they can get more information about other books that I've written. Almost everyone on this call has a website now. I provide a post office box in Concord. You don't have to go out and do that, but I encourage everyone on the call to think about writing for this column. And those of you who've done it know it's not a big deal. It's not hard to do. We put it out there, and you just don't know where it's going to go. So,
And you said 700 to 1,000 words?
700 to 800 words typically. You
700
could
to
go a
800.
little bit higher than that, but typically 700 to 800.
Uh-huh.
And when I realized that I had started off, I left out the first paragraph. That would have been helpful, right? And how I found this about you in the first place. In the darkest corner of her closet, I stumbled upon a silver gray, open-topped, cylindrical object. It was a hibachi stove that my mother had brought back from her sojourn in Okinawa. The pot had 2 handles that enabled to cook and so forth. So let me stop share here. I know that Christina and Tom and James, several of us have been to some sessions that were held in Concord. And one of the sessions was how to use artifacts in your story. So it occurred to me that I have a ton of artifacts that follow Mom, because Mom was a war bride, Dad was in the military. And I've got artifacts from Germany, from Europe, from battlefields. And so that one story not only is a way for me to get my word out there, but it also was the germ of an idea for a new book that I'm writing that'll talk about artifacts of war, and then put a personal touch to each one of those artifacts. What about the cuckoo clock from Germany, right? What about the seashell from Saipan, and so forth? So you never know where it's going to take you. One thing I was shamed by Tommy Doonan is that we got to write, and it's so easy for us to get into a writer's block. And I confess I was in a writer's block for almost a year. And so now I'm saying, okay, got to come out of that, got to break out and get it done, right? And this happens to all of us. So I will turn the stage over. James, are you able to hang in there for a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Is there something that you wanted to share, a story, an adventure?
Well, I don't have the story with me. I entered one in the senior games this year, and I took the first place for Cabarrus County.
Yay, congratulations.
It's a short story about a family that's going through World War I.
Do you have time to read it?
I don't have it with me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, next month, James.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else on the call have something that they'd like to share? Sherry, Rosa, you ladies brought some stuff last month, and then you have a short something that you'd like to share with the group. Sherry, you're talking, but I can't hear you because you're on mute. Sherry, unmute yourself.
It's up at the top.
There's an unmute button. You see, it looks like a microphone that says mute, and you have to click on that, and that will unmute you. Okay, there we go. Now we can. Sherry, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm about ready to send you something.
Uh-oh. Technology.
Rose.
You're Sherry, you're frozen. Your screen just
But
froze.
anyway, I'm gonna read a little bit. Oh,
You're back.
am I back?
Yes.
Let me see, can I get through this? It's Finding My Way, part 2. There were so many emotions staring inside. A crooked smile crept across my face, one side up and the other down, excitement bursting at the seams. It was so hard to believe that I was crossing over to the other side of that new dream. Brother and sister had left long before me. So, with a prayer in my pocket and determination in my heart, I was ready to depart. The transition had begun. Yes, we all were able to.
Uh-oh. She froze.
Frozen again. This is bandwidth. These storms are coming through our area and it's wreaking havoc.
Cross over, but not deep in our veins. And so we play it over and over again. This broken record that only God can put to rest. See, I left home a long time ago. Had to get off that street, which was never meant for me. Packed my suitcase, only had one bag to retrieve. I was looking for a better life and something more substantial to achieve. I had no idea where that would lead, but I was on my way. Packed all my hopes and dreams on that other side of the tracks, not ever wanting to look back.
Wow. Thank you, Sherry. That I visualize that.
Yes.
Wow. Well, your screen froze up, Sherry. Thank you so much.
I was in and out, so I don't know if you got.
Yeah,
Was everyone able? This is one I really like. So at another time, I will have to try to read this particular one. Yeah.
yeah, if you could bring it with you to the July meeting, we should be back in person again. The internet's wreaking havoc with some of the internet out here right now, which is so some of your presentation broke up a little bit.
Yeah.
We're recording this, so we should have gotten most of it. But if you can email that document to me,
Okay.
when I send out the link for this video, I'll include that so people can then read it again. So yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Rosa, did you have something you wanted to share? You look like you have something right in front of you.
You know, I'm not a good writer yet, but okay. This is just one of several excerpts. Birdland with my brother. In 1996, I had the opportunity to visit the club in New York known as Birdland with my big brother. It was colorful, full of musicians and other talented artists, such a famous place that dates back to, and I don't have that year yet, so I gotta get the year there. Performers, the likes of, and I've got some names, have graced the premises on the stage in years past. Leave it to my big brother to introduce me to that life, to that lifelong memorable place. He was always into music from his times in the high school band at Princeton in the 1960s to playing on the porch rooftop of our family home in Glendale. And he played Green Eggs. He even played in a band or two later in life and still had a horn that he blew at home until the last days of his life. This page is in loving memory of my talented big brother, 1944 to 2003. I love you. I decided to read that one instead of the one about it's raining men.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
I missed the last part.
The last part.
Yes, I hate that. I was
All I said was this is in loving memory of my talented big brother. And I gave the year of his birth and death. So that's just an excerpt. As I said, a lot of this is coming from journaling along the years. And that was just an excerpt about my oldest brother,
Mhm,
okay.
a memory.
mhm.
I'm not as creative as you writers. I'm trying.
No apologies, Rosa. You're doing beautifully. I have a short one I can read. I may add to this if Trail Tales needs another article, but I wrote it in October of '95 as my first child was leaving the home. And it's entitled Robin Egg Blue.
Oh my goodness.
How many times have I seen the evidence of the birth of baby robins by looking at the shattered blue shell they leave behind? I have had the opportunity to hold the fragile casings in my hands, to feel the sharp, broken remnants of protection, and to think of new life now out on its own. Today, my daughter left the nest. I never thought of how a robin must feel when she watches her babies wiggle away, dropping sweet blue pieces to the ground as they shed the home of yesterday. I liken a robin's experiences to my own. My firstborn moves out on her own, as she should, and leaves the nest as planned. But the blue sky, sharp, tiny edges, I still hold in my hands. They were a part of me. They were a part of her. And as she flies away, soaring high with expectations, I hold sweet memories blessed by her flight.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
Wow.
Hmm.
Awesome, Jeannie.
I know. I hate that. That was so good. I want to hear the rest of it.
If only we had, 10 hours a session. We only have, 90 minutes or so. But thanks, Gene, for sharing that,
You're
that
welcome.
I can see where Brutus is going to be jealous of the next book that you write. Oh, goodness. Dr. Cottrell, Bill, do you have anything new that you'd like to share? A little story or something that?
No, I got back from Chicago from visiting my son, the one that had the problem, and he's doing extremely well. He's a
Wonderful.
computer programmer for a very big hedge fund, and his wife is a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley. So we got to go up in the Sears building in Chicago. Her office was on the 87th floor. And
Oh,
look out and see Chicago. So my mind's a little bit still in Chicago, but we had good weather there. Unlike here, we felt bad that people were getting rained on, but then we had to come back yesterday. And I am still writing slowly about my experiences as a patient. And I don't know how it's going because it's such an eclectic, eccentric book, but I'm having a good time. And I have periods where I feel like I'm writing fine, but I don't know how it's all going to fit together or where I'm going with it exactly. But I enjoy listening to everybody's stories and position because we're all very different, but we all have something very much in common. We all like to express our ideas, and I think that's great. I'm enjoyed listening to every single person as they tell their story, and I think the thing is everybody has a story. Everybody has a story to tell, and that's why we're here. And so I'm very I very much enjoy the process. So I almost enjoy the idea, the process of writing, as well as actually getting anything done, but I do hope to get something done eventually.
Well, you know, again, Bill, what I would say for you and for everyone on the call, Jeannie, Sherry, and Rosa, you shared your stories. What you've shared tonight could be a story for Trail Tales. And I keep
Yeah.
going back to that because it's one thing to share it here in this group, and that's
Right.
good.
Right.
But if you want to have it in print out there for other people to read, to tease them, to say, oh, I like the way that person writes. I want to go buy a copy of Brutus the Junkyard.
Right.
Or I like the way Sherry writes. I want to see more of her work, you know, and even if she's not published yet, you'll be published the very minute that story hits the Senior Savvy, and then you'll be preparing yourself and preparing your potential readers for your next story. And what just the short stories you wrote tonight, that you read tonight, that's all we need for Trail Tales. That and a little
Right.
bio about yourself and your website if you have one. Well,
Right.
we're off to the races. So
Yeah.
highly encourage you guys and ladies. And also, again, we'll keep you featured in the newsletter. We got to just stay connected. I mean, writing is a lonely sport. Once we wake away from this room, we're back in our room. Tommy's back in the room with his books, and you know, we're all back in our little caves. Jeannie's got her little file cabinet there full of stuff, and you know, it's lonely. So anyway, Christina, did you have something that you wanted to share, the progress of what you've done so far and where you're going, what your next step is, your next book and next work?
Well, I'm actually waiting on one of the shelters to call me back, so to do a book signing. So that's what I'm waiting on.
Okay,
But I started to write on my second book, which I started to write about a couple of months ago. And it's going in a good direction. It's about basically the first manuscript that I showed you over 4.5 years ago,
I
which
remember
was
that.
an accident that I had. And you know, now that I started, like, basically I'm trying to put together not just about what happened to me and how did I get like that. I started to write about how I was a single mother to my children and how I was not able to work anymore and provide for my children. So I try to incorporate in those 10 years, kind of like not just about my accident, what I've been. And I'm trying to incorporate either into a novella or to, because I try not to make anything too long, because some of my readers, they basically don't have the time. They told me straight out, like when the novella came out, it's like how many pages it has. So I keep that in mind. I said, okay, I'm gonna keep it to the point. It's 10 years, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep it as smooth and all the details as much as I can into it.
Yeah, that's a good strategy, Christine. And Tommy's done the same thing, right? Rather than coming out with one big book, he had a series of short stories, and people are more likely to buy a short story and be able to read it. And it's, you know, whether they're on a subway, on a half-hour commute to the office or whatever. So yeah, everyone wants to think about the big, you know, 500-page novel, but that's not the way to get things sold. Also, what you've done is, and just like Jeannie identified a market with the education market, with schools, you wrote a book about a rescue dog, and you're looking to have a rollout event at a rescue mission for a dog shelter, right? An animal shelter. That's a great marketing tool, right? Because there's hundreds and thousands of them across the country. And if you get one or two or three of them to say, wow, this is a really good book about a shelter dog and how it impacted the principal character in this book, which was you, of course, then say, maybe we'll buy copies of that book and give it to everyone who walks out of here with a dog. They walk out with a dog and a book, right? So
It's
always,
true.
I'm always
I'm
thinking
waiting.
marketing, right? Always thinking marketing.
What would you recommend for the length of that keeps people's interest most? The length.
Oh gosh,
Pages.
so a novella is typically 40,000 words,
Okay.
right? And you know, so trim size is usually like 6 by 9. So like Brutus the Junkyard Dog, as an example, right? It's about this thick, right? And that seems to be the sweet spot. But you can also, publish short stories that are 32 pages. I think 32 pages is the minimum that you can do on, say, Amazon as an example. That requires 2 signatures. A signature is 16 pages. And to get a book published on Amazon, you need 2 signatures, which is 32 pages. That's a sweet spot. And you can put that on the market for like $5, $6, $7. And people will buy it. And they'll buy the ebook for 99 cents. And we always forget about ebook. Should not forget about ebook. People are even more likely to buy one of those. And so, yeah, if you're starting, Rosa, I would start with a couple of short stories, and then look at a novella, and then work your way up to a novel eventually, if that's what you want to do.
So novella, what's the definition?
40,000 words.
I know that's the length, but
Yeah.
novella.
It's basically size is what defines a novella.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, it's pretty much size that's a defining element. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's and a novel, as you might imagine, is like 80,000 words or more.
Okay.
Right. So, Donald, you're on mute. But what's going on in your world?
Well, I've gotten in touch with Ed Southern. We're talking about getting a Mecklenburg region set up. That's something we're still kind of in early stages on that. Maybe as soon as August, perhaps. I have figured out that's not going to be going through the library function for a multitude of reasons. So right now I'm targeting the 3rd Wednesday of every month, just so it doesn't conflict with either this or the program I'm already doing. So that's the biggest writing related project we have. We did just do an exercise. I would say for anybody that is suffering from writer's block, I got recommended something where you start with 5 words. They can be 5 random words. You can get them from a list, do whatever. Get 5 words, write a story around the first word for 2 minutes. Set a 2-minute timer, write a story with that word. When your 2 minutes is up, incorporate the second word in your list. So you have to continue whatever you've started writing. I can actually pull in an example. I have it in the other room if there's time. But after 10 minutes, you'll have done 5 words, and you'll be forced to progress the story from an angle that you wouldn't normally expect. And it's a really good warm-up exercise. You're not always going to get a story you can use out of it, but it will at least force you to do something on a day where you don't feel like writing.
Wow.
So we just did that in our last meeting. It was really interesting. Everybody had really interesting products from it.
Well, if everyone on the call has time, we're not going to get kicked out of a room like if we were in Concord. We can go as long as we want tonight. 8 o'clock is our normal cutoff time. I'd love to hear it if you don't mind sharing
Okay.
that.
One moment.
Yeah, you could put yourself on video off and walk across the room. That's fine. Oh, yeah, he didn't cut out altogether. Oh Lordy.
So that's
Yeah, that's one of the things, and for those of us on the call, I just heard today that Deanna Syed is no longer with the network. So they're going to have to find a new communications person, I guess. But it would be really cool if we had a nearby chapter, an adjacent chapter in Mecklenburg County, and maybe we could get some energies and synergies going between the two. So Donald, I hope you're able to pull that off with Mecklenburg County, and if you are, maybe we could have some joint resources that we could share. If we had an editor, I spoke with an editor earlier today who has been a guest speaker for our group in the past, and she might be somebody who could come in and do a joint presentation one Wednesday for you and the following week for us. I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
so
that absolutely would be. If that I'll get set up. It's something I'm interested in for sure.
Yeah. While you stepped away, I just shared with the group that Deanna Syed, I believe her name is, left the network. I guess she got a better opportunity somewhere, but so if Ed Southern is trying to do this, right now, there may be a delay. I'm not making saying that you may want to cut him some slack because he's probably got his hands full right now trying to replace Deanna.
Well, it took me a while to even make sure I could do it, so I understand.
Gotcha,
I'm not
gotcha.
in a rush. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Well, the biggest challenge actually is finding a place that is consistent. We were really fortunate to get the senior center in Concord. But a library is good. A coffee shop is good if they have internet and they don't have a lot of noise. We tried a coffee shop here before COVID, and we literally outgrew it. And it also got to be quite noisy, and other people were, banging dishes and whatever, and it was not easy.
Yeah,
So,
back when our local library was closed, we did try Starbucks for a bit. And like
Yeah.
you said, that worked great when it was like 4 or 5 people, but anytime it was more than that, that just wasn't
Yeah.
practical. So
yeah, if you find a restaurant that has a separate room, that could work. And there's a couple of there, but again, when you start getting into private sector, then they may end up charging you for the room. So we have zero budget in our. We don't
Charlotte's not cheap, so that's its own challenge as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, the libraries, sometimes the library here actually was going to charge us $100 a session, and the senior center said, no, we're not going to charge you anything. I said, well, that sounds a good deal. I said, done. But we've had some issues with internet the last 2 times at the center. So we might have to think about creating a hotspot if anyone has a MiFi with Verizon or something like that. We will certainly look into that as a fallback plan. But anyway, I don't want to distract. I want to hear what you have to say about that word prompt, because that sounds intriguing.
okay, so I guess the question is, do you want me to figure out what the 5 words were for this before, or do you want me to just read it and we'll go through with that?
Just
Whenever you think.
Okay. I'm mostly hearing just read it.
Read it.
So this
Okay.
is what I did. I didn't get to save anybody else's, but there were some good ones, unfortunately. I don't have. But a mint on the pillow is always my favorite way to start a trip. There's a luxury about it that I never knew growing up, or at least the appearance of luxury that I never saw. It turns out my father had plenty of money and could have afforded us that kind of life, if not for his other family. He had a bouquet of flowers in his hand the day he died. They were for his first wife. My mother wasn't sure who to be more mad at about it at first. She decided it should be him. If we didn't know about them, how should they know about us? As much inheritance as there was to go around, it's hard to split anything 7 ways. All I got from him was his best pair of dress shoes. For years, I kept them in the closet. Being the only thing he left for me, I wanted to keep them in good shape, but recently I started to wonder what he would have wanted me to do with them. I never had reason to dress up, no matter how much I wanted one. At first, I thought he knew what kind of life I wanted. The shoes were a way to apologize. But he might have been more literal than that. 10 years to the day that he passed, I decided shoes were for walking. I had it circled on my calendar every year, but this time I decided it would mean something more. I walked all day and night on the Compass Trail, and I was certainly the only one doing so in dress shoes. I got to the hotel just before midnight and enjoyed the mint on the pillow. I called my mother when I got there. She knew I would be awake. I knew she would be awake, still confused by what I had started. What do you hope to learn? She wondered. I only knew one way to find out. I suspect it's common for folks to give their grief meaning to try to make some sense of it. Over the next 3 weeks, I met so many people on this trails I couldn't count. None of them too glamorous, all of them perfectly human.
Hey, Donald,
Oh, wow.
Yes.
what were the 5 words?
So yeah, what were the 5 words? The first word was mint. So we started with just the word mint. That's all anybody knew. We were told write for 2 minutes with just the word mint. And then the next word was bouquet. So 2 minutes on bouquet. The third was shoes. The fourth was calendar. And then the 5th was telephone.
Well, that makes
So I'm
sense.
just trying to and part of what I talked about in this is when you do a project like this, you have to start with something you know, something that you have a strong connection point to, so you don't have to overthink it. And really the goal of this kind of project is not to be too judgmental of what you write. You're not guaranteed to have something that's really good, but it forces you to write. It gets you out of your head. It makes you just put keys or pen on thought and go. So that's why I really like it.
So those were the facilitators' words. They gave you the all of you the 5 words.
Yes,
Right.
one at a
And then-
time. You didn't know all 5 at
okay.
the start. That's the important thing. But yeah, those are the
Okay.
facilitating words.
You
Oh,
really
good.
made that happen.
Yeah, you did.
It was excellent.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
It really
Uh,
was.
It does kind of touch on family, but I had changed it enough to make it both more interesting and open-ended because I didn't know what I was going to have to fold in. So
Mhm.
Donna, but you own the content, you own the intellectual
Yep.
property. And that is exactly the kind of story that would just resonate with the senior savvy, with the Trail Tale. So I hope you'll, allow us to publish that in Trail Tales and put your name and your face with it. And
I
That
might,
was good.
I might fix it up a little bit, but yeah, if you want
Yeah.
it, I can get a version of that to you.
I would love to put that in the August issue. That's July is already taken, but August, September.
Okay.
Yeah, and and again, a bio about yourself, where how you got involved with writing, what your goals are as a writer, if you have a website, how people can reach you and so forth. We just got to keep at it. I know Jeannie's smiling because she knows that she's heard this pitch before for how many years now, Jean, right? So
Yeah.
I see the same look on Christina's face. If we have to encourage each other. I mean, otherwise we just go back and say, oh, you know what? Next year, I'll do it next year. It's fine. And no one wants to read my writing and so forth. And we get very little encouragement. So 3,000 readers and another pass along of another 3 or 4, 5,000 and before, and if you haven't been published before, the minute that thing hits the senior savvy, you are then a published author, published writer. So
It's so exciting. After Brutus in English was published, my sister bought the book right away, of course, and I was putting pictures on Facebook with people holding up the book that were excited about it. And one of the pictures was my sister. And she was a teacher, and she was going through some papers after that and found out in 1972, she wrote a children's book. And the tennis is now illustrating that book and is just about finished with the book. And so it goes. So, a new author may be born just because someday you wrote it down on paper. So
Exactly.
It really counts.
Exactly. And there is an excitement too, that the first time that, a relative, a friend, somebody from another country sends you an email or calls you and says, I have your book, right? When my first book came out, my cousin in Belgium bought the book over the internet on Amazon and sent me a picture via, I think it was Facebook. I forget what, I think it was Facebook. But it's all of a sudden, it's like, whoo, from this room, we can influence the entire world. That's,
Yes.
that's an amazing thing. So
It happens every day.
it happens every day. Exactly. And by the way, Jim Nettles, who is working with you on your book and on your sister's book, I believe, says hello. He's in Edinburgh, Scotland right now. He'll hopefully be back in time for our next meeting in July. He's got some ideas he wants to share as a follow-up on our conversation we had last month about artificial intelligence. Boy, that thing is picking up a head of steam.
Yeah.
Great.
So we want to really understand that. We understand Grammarly and Word, but this adds a different dimension that we as writers need to understand. And how when we first started the journey, a lot of us were hesitant to try Word or to try anything, right? Every step along the way. In my days gone by, people didn't know what a computer was. We used typewriters. So each step along the way, but the next thing out there, of course, is going to be AI, and it'll bring a new challenge because you will not know if a person wrote a story or if it was written by artificial intelligence. And it's darn right spooky in a way, but we need to be aware of it. So we'll delve with, I know everyone wanted to know more about it. This is not the right form, but next month we'll try to get that. What are you holding up, Rosa? I can't see it.
Anybody ever heard of Ex Libris?
No, what is that?
So
It,
it's a publishing company, Write Your Own Success, and they do full color publishing services. However, I got this how many years ago? I just opened the envelope and I received this in at least, I want to say 2001, maybe 98.
Huh.
So I just opened it and I'm looking and everything I'm hearing you guys say, you don't use all this, but they literally had rates in here of based on word count of, their editorial services, their publishing services, their add-on services. And it's like word count 10,000 to 60,000 would be 12 cents per word, So I never did, get involved with I must have my stuff blurred, right? The backgrounds. But anyway, I never used them, and now I don't think I need to, right?
Well, so here's the deal, right? So with publishers, there's what they call traditional publishers.
Yeah.
The big names that you probably heard of, and Houghton Mifflin and the rest of them. Then there's another group of publishers that are they will publish your book, they'll produce your book, publish your book, but they'll charge you for it. And what they're doing is they're basically charging you for the different services, right? So when you go to write a book, then you have to edit the book, you have to have a cover, you have to have a design and so forth. There are companies that will do all of that for you and they'll charge you for it, right?
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, you're still a self-published author, even though you're using that service. Then there's the next step, which is something like Amazon, where it's free, right? Doesn't cost you a dime, but they will produce pretty much whatever you give them, as long as you're in their format, you're following their guidelines. So the caution we have for anyone who's going that particular route is, be careful, right? Edit your work, have it professionally edited before you send it to Amazon, because Amazon's name is not on the book. They don't care. They'll right? Your name is going to be attached to that book, or even if you use a pseudonym, your pseudonym is going to be attached to that book. So you want it to be as good as it could possibly be. You want it to be professionally edited and formatted. You want to have a cover that you're proud of. Amazon does provide a service where you can use one of their templates, and I think Christina actually used one of their templates to create the cover for her book. Or you can do what Gene did, and you can have a professional designer, which Jim Nettles brought to the table, one of his people, to create the cover. No matter how you slice it, it's going to cost something, right? Unless you just write something down and just slap it out there, that could be free. But like I said, your name is associated with, right?
Well, thus Grammarly and all the word spell checks and all of that is critically important.
Very important, and self-editing is also very important, Rosa, right? So before you even send anything to an editor, you want to make sure you've looked at it, you've maybe sent it to a group of writers, like right here in this call or in our group, that could beta read the story and say, oh yeah, this is really cool. Maybe if you just add this or take away that. And that's one of the beautiful benefits of being a part of a group like this. But ultimately, when you're done doing the Grammarly and the Word and the Microsoft Word and all the rest of it, and you've done all your editing and you're happy with what you see, and you've shown it to beta readers and they've given you critique, and then you've gone back and you've changed it again. When you're all done with that, still at that time, you would want to send it to a professional editor. And that editor will take it apart and put it back together again. If they're doing their job right, it'll look like a massacre. It'll look like somebody spilled blood all over your manuscript. It'll be red lined here, and we all know what we're doing. It's horrific. But at the end of the day, their name is on it, right? If they put their name on your book, they want to make sure that it's the best edited book that it can be, because they have a professional reputation to uphold. The network, the North Carolina Writers Network, has a number of professional services and editors. Again, there's a fee for using them. There's a fee for any professional editor, because they have software that they have to do. They've gone to school, they've taken all the right courses and all of the rest of that. I will say also that you should find an editor that is matched to you, right? If you have an editor that's really good at editing science fiction books, and you're writing a romance novel, probably, even though it's a really, really good editor, that person might not be the right editor for you. You want to find someone who edits books that are in the same genre. If you're doing poetry, you want to have an editor who knows something about poetry, right? So, so those are just the things we've all learned over the last 5-10 years as we've been bouncing around in this thing. The network offers a couple of conferences a year. And they offer services all through the year. There's a Summer Squire program that's available. If you're already a member, you already know about that. You've gotten some information from the network. There's courses in community colleges and colleges around the area. One thing I have learned at 76 years old is we never stop learning, ever. You can't say, oh, I've got my master's degree, I'm done, I don't need to do this. No, you never, ever stop learning. I learn something every time I come on a call like this. Donald learned from you, the 5-word prompt. Never, I had heard something like that before, but not quite the way you developed it. So now I'm saying, okay, we got to do that again.
Could I come up with my own 5 words, you think, Donald?
Yes, we were talking about this in there. The only thing that it just has to restrict you. It just has to be some limit on what the next idea needs to be, because it's the restriction that makes you more creative. It can be words from a newspaper, from a magazine, from a book that you're reading. Just any nouns. You want nouns, I guess, instead of like adverbs or something like that. But yeah, other than that, any 5 words.
Cool. Well, is everyone on the call comfortable if, like, in our next meeting in July, we had that kind of an exercise, and
oh yeah,
we send out 5 words in advance, and you'll have time to think about it and come up with something?
Good idea.
Yeah.
All right.
very
Well,
good. I like it. Yeah.
okay, so Donald, since you're still with us and not with Mecklenburg County yet, I would love to delegate that task to you. If you could come up with 5 words as a challenge for the group, not just the people on this call, but the people who were not able to make it, and I'll put together an email and put it in our newsletter, and they'll give us something to think about, next time. And in July, we might even be able to take those 5 words and take that story that each of us comes back with, and then run it through an AI filter and see what AI does with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that could be a fun exercise. So
Sure could.
well, anything else for the good of the cause as we are approaching the witching hour here? And I haven't heard any lightning flashes, seen any lightning, or heard thunder, so I'm hoping the storms are gone now. But
It's all over. It's in Matthews right now.
Yeah, I
Big
got
time
some
thunder.
now.
Yeah.
yeah, we had it here about a half hour ago. So
Yeesh.
anything else for
Which way is it moving?
Southwest, I guess.
Southwest?
Is where it'd be moving.
Yeah, southwest. Yeah.
Is that me?
Where are you, Rosa?
Mouth.
Going in and out. No, I just want to let Christina know that I've got her book. I bought her book, and the next time we're together, Christina, I got your book.
Hey, thank
Yeah,
you.
yes. And the next time we're together, I'll get you to autograph for me.
I'll be there in August because July I won't be there because it'll be my birthday and I'll be in Turks and Caicos.
Woo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
That's a
Very
great
nice.
happy birthday.
So I'll
Yeah.
be there in August.
Okay, there.
And one of the things too, before I forget, Christina, I did not forget. I just have been slammed, but I owe you a review and I will get that to Amazon. One of the things we could do for each other is when you read a book, if it's on Amazon,
Yes.
write a review that, you know, if you like the book, let people know, because that's something that people look at when they go to buy a book. They say, did someone else read this book? And what do they say about it, right? And, you know, 5 stars, if you can do it, or 4 or 5 stars typically would be nice to have. But that's up to each one of us as we're reading a book. And so, Christina, I owe you one. I will get, I promise you this, it will be done before your birthday, okay?
Oh, thank you.
Up on Amazon. It's a great book. I encourage people to read it. So thanks everyone for being on the call this evening.
Thank you, Vincent.
If there's nothing else for the good of
Thank
the
you.
cause, try to stay safe and stay dry and avoid the floodwaters and all that. What are you holding up there, Rosa?
What my dog was doing while I'm in the meeting.
Oh, no.
Ah,
Oh,
That's
What
my
happened?
visor. So it's over with.
Oh,
Oh my God. He just